Welcome, lovely, peacefuls, and kind souls. How's everyone doing today? I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a happy Thanksgiving, or whatever you celebrate is fine with me. We're free here. We embrace people here. Whatever you celebrate, let me know. Let me know in the comments what you celebrate. Today's video, we're going to be talking about my personal journey of how I lost almost 50 pounds. But before we do that, I want you to definitely subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who could possibly benefit, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can get more of these videos. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about what I did and how you can do it too. Why would I just talk about myself and not give you tools, right? So you're going to get all the tools that I utilize to losing all that weight, and how you have to shift your mindset to being who you want to be in the future. In the now, I'm also going to be giving you some tools that you can implement today, and stay till the end because I'm actually going to be giving you my guide at the end. So hopefully you stay till the end and watch the entire video so you can get my free guide that will jumpstart you to losing weight, okay? As well as the link to joining my group, which I will be giving you at the end as well. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Avishai L, international best-selling author, international speaker, holistic health coach, and founder of the 12-week Eat Stress Away program, where I help professional and entrepreneurial women get rid of their stress in 90 days through nutrition and lifestyle changes with my 6-step Eat Stress Away method. So where should I begin? My weight has been a yo-yo. Comment below if you can relate to the yo-yo dieting and dieting. So I actually remember, I'll start from there. I first became vegan, I want to say 2012, 2013, and I was considered what I would call a junk food vegan. And I was relatively small then. I think I started out at like 129, maybe 127. I weighed, I'm 5 feet 6 inches, so that wasn't too bad for my height. And what happened was, I started tweaking my diet and to more vegan and plant-based, because there's a difference between a junk food vegan and a plant-based vegan. Junk food vegans eat sugar, they eat butter, they eat processed foods. It doesn't matter as long as it's vegan, packaged foods. And that was something I started off doing, and then I transitioned into more plant-based, and when I say plant-based, I mean like beans, greens. That reminds me of that song. It's like tomatoes, whatever, collard greens. You know that song? I don't know. I just say random shit, okay? Just stay with me. So it was that, and what else did I have? I mean like beans, nuts, seeds, leafy greens, things that grow from the ground, fruits. How could I forget fruits? Frutas. So that was what I transitioned to. So I transitioned over to that more, I want to say close to 2014, and I was pretty consistent with that. But what happened in that same year is I became like heavily stressed out. I remember 2013, I was basically fired from a job. I was on workers' comp for an injury that I sustained at work, and they fired me because I couldn't work anymore. That was the whole deal as to why they fired me. If you want to hear more about that, I will link that in the link below. You can listen to a podcast episode on my podcast, Avi Unfiltered, for that, to hear my journey of how I became a health coach and things like that. So I started off there, and I transitioned out of there, obviously, because I was fired, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I wanted to be a blogger. At the time, I was a violin teacher teaching in the public school, so I didn't know if I wanted to teach violin. I was constantly like all over the place, didn't know what I wanted to do, so I started to do everything, and it took a toll on me. And then I hired, I think, a social media person at the time that just really stressed me out. And because I was dealing with all of that stress, I remember sitting on the couch, and like I said, I was pretty good, pretty consistent with my diet. And all of a sudden, this thought came to me like, why don't you eat the whole jar of peanut butter? Like, what would happen if you eat the whole jar of peanut butter? And I'm sitting on the couch, and then I'm walking to the kitchen, and I take the peanut butter out and I eat a whole jar of peanut butter. And I'm like, oh, I feel relaxed now. I feel stuffed, but I feel relaxed. I feel like I can, take on the world now. I feel like, this is helping my stress, that's how I was feeling. And so, long story short, one jar turned into 2 jars, and 2 jars turned into almond butter, and almond butter turned into 20 Kits bars. I don't know if you know that fruit and nut bars, but it was these fruit and nut bars kits, and it started with me sneaking in the bathroom. And so it started with me sneaking in the bathroom, and I ate the whole bar of Kids bars. And then I remember getting something from somewhere else, and I ate the whole jars. Like, I had no limitations. I was just stressed out of my mind, having no purpose and having no boundaries, having none of that. Drop a comment below if you can relate to that, and I'll respond to you. So this is what I was dealing with at that time. And it was a bad food addiction that I got. I even started to make excuses for myself, like, because I wanted to eat the whole jar of almond butter and peanut butter, I started to put mulberries and blueberries in there and started saying it was healthy. I started even counting the calories of it, and it was just a mess. Like, psychologically, it started to take a toll on my mental health. I started to look at food like, why do we have to swallow food? Like, why does it have to disappear? And it was horrible. I was like, what is going on? So it took, no lie, it took a good, I would say 2 to 3 years to get that food addiction under control. It wasn't as bad, but to get it under control and to gain my mental sanity after that, it took a very long time. I just didn't know how to do it. So I want to say around 2015, I shot up to 140. It was like 2014 going into 2015. It was like the beginning. I shot up to like 146, and I was really bloated. So I'm on the bike at one of my favorite cycling places that I attended faithfully 5 days a week, sometimes every day of the week after I left boot camp. And I almost fell off the bike because I was so dizzy. So I'm thinking that I'm cycling and I'm thinking that I'm up here, but I'm looking down and I can see the floor in my view. And I said, this is weird that I'm seeing the floor, but I feel like I'm not on the floor. So that's how dizzy I was. I had a very terrible food addiction. I would eat like 60 medjool dates. I know some of you are like, well, that's healthy, but that's too much. Like, that's overload. So 60 medjool dates and bananas. And I remember going to my hairdresser at the time, and she's like, you should probably go and see about that. And at the time I was, into holistic health, so I didn't want to go to a doctor and have my blood drawn. But months went by and I was like, well, I'm not getting any better. Let me at least see what's going on. So I didn't go to a doctor per se, but I went to have my blood taken. And when I got the results, I was super shocked to see that I had diabetes. I had liver damage. Now, according to Dr. Hyman, he says it said I was pre-diabetic. He considers pre-diabetes just diabetes. So my A1C was very high, and my alkaline phosphatase was extremely high. And I had more testing done, and at this time my weight just kept going up and up and up and up and up. So my health was like really declining. Everything was just out of control. Like I said, the stress was just getting heightened. I was busting my ass and hustling and doing all this stuff. It was really taking a toll. So I shot up to want to say like 158, and then by 2016 I was 168 pounds. So I was 168 pounds at this time, and I just really, what got me there was stress. And this is why I deal with people with stress, because I'm like, that's why people really gain weight. I didn't have boundaries with food. I didn't have boundaries with people at the time, and I didn't know how to really envision what I really wanted to do with my life at the time, and that's what was kind of overstepping my boundaries. And so now when I work with people, when I work with my clients, I really go over that, and that's actually part of my program, is setting those boundaries specifically with yourself and with people, because you will want to turn to food to eat and to cope, because certain food feels comforting to people but doesn't mean it's comforting for your health. So I shot up to around 168 pounds, and at this time I was anemic, severely anemic. Like, kidneys weren't flushing anything out. Something was wrong with my pancreas. My adrenals were bad. My hair wouldn't grow. It was super short. I'm actually gonna put it in this video so you can see how short it was, and you can see how heavy I was at the time. My liver, I think, was recovering at this point, but again, you know, my gut was so bad that it was heavily inflamed. It was very hard to lose weight. I was struggling with diabetes. I was struggling with metabolic disorders and various things, various issues. So it was a complete process. So I want to say I met with a practitioner who told me to like drink a big smoothie throughout the day, you know, to get my body back in order. I was, like I said, anemic. So she gave me a smoothie recipe. She told me to start walking. I know you're like, well, if you're anemic, you should sleep, but she wanted me to get out and exercise. So I started walking, and I got down to 158, and then down to 151. And then the following year I became homeless, which was not at all my fault. The funds were just taken from me, so I had nowhere to go. Moved in with a relative by that year. So then I turned into junk food again, and it really had to hustle, pawn things, scrape things up, you know, just to feed myself. I did have some support from family members, but this was later on. The majority of the time I was hustling, taking 10 buses a day, started my skincare line, I started getting clients in, did that, and had to start from complete scratch just 3 years ago. So that added stress. My weight went back up to like 157. So 2017, 2018, I did some research. I really wanted to lose weight, and I think by this time I was like 150 pounds, and I said, you know, I really want to do something about this. So I tried something completely different. I went back to the drawing board because I was finally in a more stable place, so I was kind of more relaxed. I went back to the drawing board, and I took out some medical books, read some medical research books, some scientific books again, and I researched intermittent fasting. So I do intermittent fasting, but I also was eating more melons at this time, and more grapes, and drinking water, and I cut out certain things. I had minimal oil and cut that out of my diet. So that's basically what I was eating at the time. And, you know, I didn't deprive myself. I just said, you're gonna eat. You're not gonna think about weight. You're going to eat until you're satisfied. You're not gonna go over your boundary. So we're gonna rewind a little bit. The reason why I said you're not gonna go over your boundary, I'm actually thankful that my liver was damaged and diabetes and all of this stuff happened, because I was able to intuitively know when it was hurting and when I needed to stop eating. So because I didn't like that feeling, because I almost did die, I did not want that to happen again. So I mentioned I cut out, like I said, wheat, gluten, dairy, sugar. Dairy was already cut out because I was vegan, and I set up boundaries with myself, and that's what I have people do in my program. There's, modules that I work with that on. So I actually became the student, as I said, to really hone in and discover why I was actually turning to food. So I recognized that it was stress. I also recognized that I didn't really schedule my meals or prep my meals. Also, time management was a factor. I recognized that I actually do better when I exercise with no food. So I'll eat after I work out. So I go complete absolute fast. I don't even do water fasting when I work out. So that's something else I discovered. I actually have more energy. I feel more connected, more spiritually inclined. Actually, my workouts are holistic and completely divinely guided. So that's another thing that I discovered. It's all in my modules 1 through 6, and just staying consistent. Consistency is I can't say that enough. And I wouldn't say consistent in eating the same thing every day, but being consistent and saying, you know what, this is my boundary because. So when you set specific boundaries, I want you to write this down. When you set specific boundaries with yourself when it comes to food, like for instance, okay, I'm not going to eat that, I don't know, chicken cutlet with all the butter on it and all the frying and all of that stuff, because when I eat that, I feel bloated, or I feel depressed, or I feel angry, or I feel anxious. Some of my clients, when they eat certain foods like filled with gluten, they'll feel anxious. So, and then sometimes people will still continue to eat those foods because it's really a self-love thing. Excuse me, I don't know what that was. It's a self-love thing, and that's also part of my program as well, because I realized that you could have a whole health condition. You could feel, because I've been there too, where I've still felt, anxious after eating something, but it was that self-sabotage. Those trauma thoughts came up, and those thoughts of, me not loving myself would come up, and I would eat certain foods to cope with that. So what I actually started doing with myself is eating my favorite foods as I was healing, but eating them in a healthier version. So if I did want, cheesecake like I used to have, I would make it utilizing, 4 to 5 ingredients without oils and things that cause inflammation. So that's what I highly recommend. That's what you can start doing today, is start looking for different recipes that you make right now, but that's in a healthier version for you. So that's what I recommend as well. And also, just like I said, staying consistent, but you do have to get to the root as to why you are choosing to eat certain foods. And I find that the reason is stress, and stress is the header for everything, and under that is trauma, anxiety, depression, and you have to figure out what is the trigger for it. And part of knowing that, and what's actually going to keep you, and why I put this in module 1 of my program, which is like the basic nutritional knowledge, is because that's the first thing. That's when the light bulb goes off, is like when you make that connection between, what I was eating before. For instance, a lot of people think they have to eat, a lot of animal flesh because that's protein. And animal protein is actually void of antioxidants and phytochemicals, but it is rich in heterocyclic amines, which is a carcinogenic compound, and it also raises your cholesterol, whether white or dark animal flesh, okay? So that's a myth. So there's a lot of myths going around. So we do myth busting and all of that stuff, and I take you through that whole process. You can really, that's when the light bulb goes off, but it's in the later modules that we really dive deep, like into, and begin like 3, and on, because you really discover that it's a lack of self-love because of what you've been dealing with. This is why a lot of people, you know, emotionally eat. They're trying to fill a void of what they lost. So if you lost a loved one, you're trying to feel that density of that person with maybe that dense cake, that dense cookie. You know, there's a psychological effect. So when I developed this program, I realized that people really lack nutrients, and these nutrients will help support your mental health, whether it's dealing with trauma, dealing with grief, dealing with anxiety. You know, you have things like magnesium to help you with stress, and things like the vitamin B complexes to help you with energy, but also boost your, I'm hearing, self-esteem, self-love, and also lower your anxiety. And vitamin C, you know, which helps boost your immunity. But when you boost your immunity, you're boosting your mood as well. So there's a lot of things. You also go into working with essential oils and various things that are in addition, an additive to diet. So I hope this video was helpful, and since you stayed till the end, you get my free guide of my 5 top tips that will get you to losing weight immediately. Within the first 7 days, you should see changes of 3 pounds or more, eating healthy without deprivation, without dieting. You don't have to diet. The way I do things, you don't have to diet. If you'd like more info, you can definitely join my free and private Facebook group. And as always, anything else you need is in the description box below. I really hope you love this video, you go and implement these tips, and you feel better about yourself. Remember, you're beautiful as the way you are. Celebrate every journey that you have. Don't focus, and that's what I wanted to say, don't focus on how much you have to lose. Hone in on what you're eating and do micro increments. It's all going to be in the free guide, so definitely grab it. I will link it in the description box below. Have an amazing, wonderful day, lovely peacefuls, and see you in the next video.